So I've been playing Warzone for over 2 years now, and undoubtedly, this game has brought me back to Call of Duty in a way I haven't played since honestly Modern Warfare 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, and some of those other early games that just had me and pretty much the whole community hooked. But Warzone is a different pace, it's a different game, and it's brought me back. But today I want to tell you why I've stopped playing Warzone, what's got me to this point now, and get some feedback from y'all. See where y'all are at with it as well. After the video, let me know where you're at with Warzone. Mid 2022. How are you looking forward to Warzone 2? Are you still having fun with this? Let me know down below. If you like this type of content, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit your notifications so you never miss a video from me. Let's go and get into it. So the first thing that comes to mind with Warzone now, and keep in mind, if you're not familiar with me, I was always a 1.1 to a 1.2 KD player, somewhere in there essentially throughout my entire multiplayer career. For the first year of Warzone, essentially the same thing. And then once I started streaming, I realized I have to be able to get better here. People want to see great gameplay, and that's what I want to bring to the table. So I have been able to pull my overall KD up to a 1.5, and I have weeks and weeks and weeks in rows essentially where I have well over a 2 KD. It's just I'm pretty far into it, so it's going to take some time to get my overall KD up to that point. But there's been some big changes I've made personally to get myself to that point. And we can talk about that in a future video, but I still find myself frustrated with this game almost on a daily basis, and that can be frustration from many different places. It can be maybe I'm playing like crap that day, or maybe SBMM is just crushing me. I play a lot of the times between like 7 and 10 p.m., so one of your hottest times for Warzone. So there's a big part of the player base that obviously is better than me, and as a uber competitive person, sometimes this game, it kind of gets the best of me in that way. But there's also things with the game, you know, it lags out at the worst possible moment. Sometimes the map is super frustrating, especially in Caldera. No matter what the reason is, I just find myself frustrated with this game a lot, right? And I have a lot of fun with it. You know, sometimes we're kicking butt and everything's going great, you know, and other times, not so much, man. So the point of playing a game is to essentially have fun. Most of the time, I find myself, at least, you know, on a daily basis, not the whole time, but several moments throughout the night or throughout the day when I'm playing, I am frustrated with something in this game, and it's kind of just gotten the best of me here recently. It's one of those games that I have never been more frustrated with, and I've never said I hate this game more than Warzone specifically, Caldera and Verdansk maps. But man, dude, it's so annoying, you know, especially the better I get, I feel like the worse it is, you know, and I know SBMM is there and all that kind of stuff, but man, it just seems like a super frustrating experience right now for me. Next thing we're going to talk about, man, is all of the guns. And this is going to be the only time you ever hear me complain about too many guns. But in this game, we have Modern Warfare guns, Cold War guns, Vanguard guns. It's just a lot to keep up with. I wouldn't mind it if there wasn't so many meta changes. It seems like they're always buffing and nerfing and doing this. And on another note, the kinds of guns we have for Vanguard, it seems like they're just kind of saying, hey, listen, we have all these other guns from the 2 previous games. We're just going to kind of lack what we're bringing to the table. You know, this is not a World War II game, essentially. It's a more of a modern game with a thin World War II wrapping paper around it. So when I went back and played COD World War II recently for a video I was doing, I was like, man, there are so many more guns in this game. It felt more like a World War II experience. This game does not. And I think that leads to the guns as well. They're like, hey, we have all these other guns. Let's just sporadically add guns here and there, but they don't have near the guns that they do in World War II. And another thing with the guns is the meta changes they decide to do. So I can appreciate that things change and it kind of keeps things fresh in a way, but they decided to keep guns like the Bren, meta, for it seemed like months on end. But then they take guns like the Swiss and the Car, like truly skill weapons, I mean, a lot of the time, and they say, no, I think this takes too much skill. We're going to make the HDR and AX50 really good. Our Vanguard car has pretty much always sucked. And the guys that use the Swiss and the Modern Warfare car, yeah, forget about them. But then the brand is still good for months on end. I really don't understand the idea about that. And then you have guns like the NZ41. It finally got up to the point where it's good. The AS44, I still don't know what's up with that gun. The Tommy gun, the M1928, still don't know what's up with that gun. And there's some others that it just seems like they kind of, yeah, these are kind of crap weapons over here. You know, STG, Bren, XM4, Kilo, you know, these are kind of the guns we're really focused on. And, you know, the Bren has come way down in significance and a lot less people are using it now, but the meta changes, you know, and the guns they decide to make meta and then ruining other guns at the same time, it makes absolutely no sense to me, and it's pretty frustrating. I mean, to be honest with you, it's overall a pretty well-balanced system with the guns right now, but there's still some guns that are just not competitive right now in Warzone, and for the life of me, I can't understand why. Why are they not competitive like other guns? Why do you take your sniper rifles and do what you did to them in such a drastic way and buff Modern Warfare sniper rifles? I don't know, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and a lot of the things they do with the guns doesn't make sense, and there's too many guns to keep up with. This is something I'm definitely looking forward to Modern Warfare 2 cleaning up and starting with a fresh, clean slate of guns. Let's talk about the map. So, we needed a change in the community. Verdansk is pretty much universally loved, but we needed some kind of change. And where Verdansk was really good, I mean, the entire layout of the map was really phenomenal. You never felt like you were too exposed in that map. You know, you had certain areas like airport and, you know, the hills and the mountain right there next to hospital, train station, Twin Tower, all that kind of area. You had some areas where, unfortunately, you just had to kind of, you know, get across those areas at times, and you might be picked off or whatever. It just happens, right? But there was always a piece of cover. There was always something you could kind of move to. In this game, it feels like you're open, out in the open a lot. So it's kind of a frustrating map in that way. It's also frustrating to traverse the map with all of the hills and elevation changes. And you don't have the tall buildings like you did in Verdansk. You just have mountains and you have hills and you have all of this climbing and so it's almost like a climbing simulator a lot of the times. It makes working the gas line kind of frustrating sometimes. You better know that route really well. If you don't, you could get caught behind a mountain. Now, to be fair, the redeploy balloons have made traversing this map a heck of a lot better, but they dried up the vegetation. And they did that, you know, to keep people from essentially hiding in bushes. And, you know, you have less trees, so you have more open sight lines, so you can get shots off and blah, 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 blah. But now you've made yourself more open in the game. So essentially, you almost have to fight bush to bush sometimes when you're trying to get to a redeploy balloon or get inside of the next circle. You know, they've added Storage Town. They've added little points of interest, but most of the time, man, you have things like, you know, your special events. King Kong versus Godzilla? Huh? What? Who cares about that? It made no sense. And then their points of interest are kind of weak. I don't feel like there's anything super exciting about this map. And when they make new changes, it's like, let's dry up the vegetation and take more water out of the game. And then we're going to add a boat over here. And then some tunnels underground. When Verdansk made changes, it was like big changes. It went from quarry to salt mine. Big earthquake that went through downtown and made new areas to explore. I mean, they were big changes. They didn't have to do a lot of changes in that map. You know, they would add buildings like Nakatomi Plaza. And it just felt like they were a little bit more in tune, although cheating was just rampant in that map. it just felt like they were more in tune as to keeping things fresh in that map as opposed to this one. I mean, think about that. They added Nakatomi Plaza in one, they dried up the vegetation in the other. You see where I'm going with this? And on that note, talking about maps, why can't we alternate? You know, if you have to have a dedicated server for each map, fine. But there's no, you can't tell me that they cannot, they cannot swap the maps, or they can't randomly give you a map to drop in. So, you know, maybe 5 games in a row you're going to play Verdansk, and 5 games in a row you're going to play Caldera. Like, I just see it as a cop-out for them to say, yep, we can't do it. We all know they're not in the business of really making the customer base happy, but at the same time, a rotation in the maps would be a nice addition as well. I don't want Storage Town and Caldera. I want Verdansk back if I want to play in Verdansk. So you kind of see where I'm going with this. The map itself has not held up nearly as well as Verdansk did. Another thing, man, you know, you spend a lot of time in this game. And one thing, I set myself goals all the time, you know, and I want to achieve those goals. So what I do in Call of Duty is I set my goal. Like, I want to be a, 2 KD player by the end of the year. I think that's reasonable. But other than that, what else are we working for? What else is in the game that you're like, man, I really grinded for that? A camo? I mean, you really can't unlock a ton of camos in Warzone. So you have to play multiplayer there. You know, why not a currency system? You know, if you spend so much time in the game and you get so many kills in the game, why not work for something? You know, something cool that you can spend those points on in the store. I was playing COD World War II, and this kind of is what brought this up to me. And I was like, you know, what are these little things that I'm earning here? And it was like duplicates when you would open a supply drop and stuff, and they'd give you these duplicates, and then you could buy additional uniforms or, you know, collections and things like that. You know, why not have something like that where you feel like, you know, you're earning something when you play Warzone, or do Warzone specific skins, make them really badass, you know, and the more time and the more kills and everything you spend in the game, reward players with that. You know, you have the battle pass, which is never going to go away. They make way too much money on it, which is fine. But being able to reward your player base for playing your game seems like a no-brainer. You know, it seems like people will spend more time in it because now they have something to work for. I like having goals, and this game really gives you no motivation to play it other than, hey, here's a new skin every once in a while, and, you know, here's some COD points, you know, so your next battle pass will pretty much be on us. It just kind of sucks in that regard, man. Speaking of the battle pass, you know, I don't mind that it's there. You make the choice if you want to buy it. But one minor gripe I have with that is, if you're going to give a skin for a gun that I don't care about, that's probably last week's meta or last month's meta anyways, bunch of attachments I don't care about, why can't I use that skin, just the skin, on any gun I want? You know, I can understand the skin and the character, that's kind of set, right? And it doesn't really matter who that skin goes on because the character is a character. But the gun itself, if there's a really badass skin, but it's on a shotgun, or it's on a gun that I don't use or care anything about, I should be able to take that skin and apply it to at least one of the guns that I do care, I do run. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like a really weird move with, like, hey, here's this really cool skin in this tracer pack, but you can only use it on this specific gun. I don't know. It just kind of sucks. So to wrap this whole thing up, man, you know, I'm just not having a lot of fun with the game right now. You know, we've been able to build up the community. It's been slow. It's been a lot of videos to get here, and that's fine. I got a strong community of people that watch and interact with me and all that good stuff. But man, I'm just not having a good time with this game. You know, it's one of those things I just need to back off of it a little bit, play some other things, play some other story. I haven't played a lot of story-driven games since Red Dead Redemption 2, if I'm being honest with you. You know, that's a pretty special game, you know. but try to get into some of this other stuff because I don't see them, although they've made some quality of life changes in Warzone that are really good. I mean, really good. I'm not having a great time with it, man. Either a new map or a big change in the map, adding some actual World War II guns in your World War II game would be nice. This game has been a disappointment pretty much all the way around. The single player was garbage, and it was a bunch of woke set pieces in World War II. It was really, really a letdown. The multiplayer sucks. The maps are not great. The guns have been good, but they don't have enough of them from the World War II period. And I'm kind of disappointed, man. Warzone, Vanguard. Right now, I'm just not having fun with Warzone. So again, I want to hear where you are at with the game. Are you having fun with it? If you are, man, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the game mid-2022. Thank you guys for joining me. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.